All white people are racist.
If you do not listen to her, your event will be shut down.
All men are misogynistic.
You're just too busy hating women.
You're a
you
hate
can't
group.
fucking
You're a
see
fucking hate
that we're
group.
trying to actually work on those same situations.
All cisgender people are transphobic.
Die, cis, scum.
All members of a majority are biased against the members of the minority or oppressed group.
We are trying to be reasonable. We are trying. We're gonna let you on the mic. We're gonna give you the mic. Well, after Senator Sanders, after Senator Sanders, after Senator Sanders. After Senator Sanders. Okay. All right. We're shutting it down. You are shutting it down. You are disrupting this event. You are disrupting this event. We will. No, you are shutting it down. We are shutting it down. Oh my God. What the hell have I got myself into? Okay, now that I have drank about a fifth of vodka and changed my shirt, let's get started. Hello YouTube, welcome back to the gray area with your host, ItsThatKidGreg. So, just to let you guys know, this is part 2 of a 2-part video. So part 1 will be here and in the description, so check it out before you watch this one. And that being said, let's jump right in. So who are social justice warriors? Well, from what I understand, they are the most overzealous members of a social justice movement. But that's just what I think. What do other people think? Wikipedia describes social justice warrior as a pejorative term for an individual who advocates for social justice views. The accusation of being called an SJW carries implications that the individual carries out these acts not for any deep-seated views, but because they are seeking validation, more or less. Now, if you recall last video, I mentioned how I felt like the people who ruin the idea of social justice are the ones who use it as a way to gain self-validation for themselves, who don't actually care about any of the issues that they claim to be fighting for, but rather they are seeking approval from their peers and society at large. Now, this is just what I thought of what people were ruining social justice, and I had never read this article before, but it seems strange that they seem to correlate so well. But that could just be a coincidence. What does everyone else think on this? Well, here I have pulled up the Urban Dictionary, so we are going to read through a few definitions to see what people think, because Urban Dictionary is the people's dictionary. Okay, a pejorative term for an individual who repeatedly and vehemently, I can never say that word right, just letting you know that now, engages in arguments on social justice on the internet, often in a shallow or not well thought out way for the purpose of raising their own personal reputation. Okay, well, what about the next definition? Social justice warriors, or SJWs, are people with paper-thin skin who always find something to be offended about. They generally have no concept of humor. Words they commonly use include intolerant, offensive, triggering, sexist, and racist. Okay. Social justice warriors, usually people that need to believe they are fighting for social justice in order to feel validated regardless of whether their arguments have any logic or truth to them. Okay, so this, I mean, say what you will about Urban Dictionary, it is where people get to say exactly what they think a certain word or term means, and from what I can tell, adding on to what I felt and what I saw with the Wikipedia article, it seems like the word social justice warrior, the term social justice warrior, automatically brings up ideas that are negative in people's minds. But why is this? I think that's what we'll be mainly discussing today. Well, one thing that I've noticed in my short 20 years of life is that the road to hell is often paved with good intentions, and people who believe that they are doing the right thing are the most adamant people on the planet. They will stop at nothing to achieve what they desire if they believe it is the right thing to do. And I think this plays a huge part in the psychology of the social justice warrior, and it also plays a huge part in why they are so disliked. Especially when it comes to social issues, having a good idea that you think will help everyone usually isn't the case. It usually only helps people that you think are in need, or it only helps people within your immediate recollection, understanding. I can't think of the right word. Sue me. I mean, let's just look at Nazi Germany. Hitler thought that what he was doing was the best thing for the German people. He thought that eliminating the groups that he targeted would help the nation of Germany rise up and reach its full potential. But even with all these good intentions, he committed atrocities like no other and became possibly the most hated man in history. Now, I'm not saying that social justice warriors are literally Hitler, but we can see a correlation there in that being overzealous about something that you think can help a lot of people oftentimes squashes people who aren't being helped by what you're doing. It silences people who wouldn't need help had you not interfered. You create a new kind of oppression by trying to liberate all, is what I'm trying to say. The next issue people have is this notion of safe spaces, where a person can go to hide away from ideas, words, phrases that may trigger them. Ironically enough, this word, triggered, wasn't necessarily used with regular people before the modern era. It was usually saved for soldiers who had experienced shell shock, which is when you've witnessed atrocities of war like bombs going off and people being killed. And coming back from that, you can be triggered to relive these events in your mind. You see them happening again and it causes you to panic and freak out. It's a very serious thing. But the modern use of being triggered is actually something much less serious. It's simply someone whose feelings have been hurt, someone who's been immensely offended by something. I mean, of course they would use this term though, because things like PTSD are easy to contract as having some bad experiences on Twitter. And I'm not joking about that. Link in the description as well as everything else that I mentioned. On a side note, this is why I personally like to distinguish what soldiers experience as shell shock, which is what they used to call it before the more politically, scientifically accurate term post-traumatic stress disorder came about. Because if you can get something like PTSD from something as idiotic as Twitter, then I don't think that our brave soldiers should have to be lumped in with you, because what they see and what they experience cannot be compared to by your little spats on Twitter. Sorry. Speaking of our armed forces, freedom is another reason why people don't seem to like SJWs, at least from my perspective. Social justice warriors are quick to denounce someone's right to free speech, while at the same time using theirs to spread their ideas. They feel that certain freedoms can and should be limited in order to fit certain ideological molds. I'm sure you all remember the Mizzou protests where former Professor Melissa Click actually called for force to remove a student journalism from the public area in which they were demonstrating.
Hi media, can I talk to you?
No, you need to get out.
Well,
you need to get out.
No, I don't.
You need to get out.
I actually don't.
All right. Hey, who wants to help me get this reporter out of here?
Now, while it is absolutely reprehensible that she would call for physical force in order to remove a journalist, I feel like the real tragedy here, the real shame, is that this woman who was expressly enjoying her right to the First Amendment was using it and her status as a professor to take away that same First Amendment right from a student journalist. Absolutely deplorable, if you ask me. And as you can see, this ties in beautifully with the idea of safe spaces. By declaring this protest area a safe space, they were able to push out anybody who they felt was a threat to their ideology, to their movement. And in the process of this, they were trampling on the rights of these people who simply wanted to do their jobs. And this whole idea of pushing ideological contenders out of spaces is unfortunately not just limited to the real world. It also happens a lot on the internet, specifically, at least from my experience, with the Reddit sphere and the subreddit Kotaku in Action. Kotaku in Action, or KIA, was a subreddit developed to discuss the ethics of games journalism during the Gamergate fiasco a while back now. Since then, the subreddit has turned into a sort of gathering place that showcases hypocrisies and such with ethics and games journalism, or just geek media in general. However, posting on Kotaku in Action actually has a, well, depending on your view, a detrimental effect on the user. Because any post that you make on Kotaku in Action, whether it be a submitted post or simply a comment to a post that came from that subreddit, immediately gets you banned from several other subreddits, including r/rape, which was designed to help victims overcome their trauma after undergoing a sexual assault. It's mind-boggling. It's absolutely mind-boggling how far an ideology is willing to go if they feel they are fighting off their ideological counter. Now, supposedly, the reason why these subreddits took these measures is because during the Gamergate fiasco, many users brigaded these subreddits, which is basically when a bunch of users go to a single subreddit and downvote as much of their content as possible, or post things that are specifically offensive to the people on those subreddits. It's like mass trolling, basically. Now, I don't know, I wasn't witnessing this as it was happening, and it has been a long time since the Gamergate thing was at its peak, so it seems very heavy-handed for it to still be an automatic ban on anybody who posts on one subreddit due to the actions of those who posted on that same subreddit some time ago. I mean, in internet time, Gamergate was like a decade ago. Speaking of Gamergate, there's also the accusation that SJWs don't actually care about the people that they are advocating for. We saw this in several of the definitions of social justice warrior that I found online. And so I feel like this must be some sort of defining characteristic when discussing just what exactly a social justice warrior is. I also just want to point out that I think without the Gamergate thing happening, I don't think people would actually attribute this to them, or that people would notice this about them. And so I think we should all give a slow clap to Gamergate for pointing that out to us all. Thank you, Gamergate. Thank you so much. During the Gamergate controversy, it was widely spread that gamers were just straight white males who were racist and sexist and misogynist, and they just hated everybody, and they were just filled with all this hate, especially for minorities, and how dare you. This was the popular rhetoric, and the media ate it up. They posted it everywhere. It was on ABC News. They made a CSI episode about gamers being sexist white males. I have discussed it on this channel before. It is absolutely ridiculous how the media just came at it, like they saw it and they grabbed it and they never let go until they hit the touchdown. That is insane to me.
Go home, gamer girl.
What the hell is your problem?
You and your boss. Reina Punjabi only got this feminazi game made by being a slut. What happened?
These guys, they just can't stand women in gaming.
While this was the popular rhetoric, there was a small hashtag that exploded online called hashtag Not Your Shield. Not Your Shield was composed of women, racial minorities, and LGBT folk who decided that they were fed up with being used as the reason for wanting to attack gamers and change gaming, when they themselves were gamers and enjoyed gaming the way it was. These people felt like by having social justice warriors speak for them and say all these things, say how they felt, that they themselves were silenced. However, this was never picked up by the media, and I could only really find like one article about it. That could just be because of my bad Googling skills or the bad internet connection I had at the time, but there it is. But this wasn't limited to Gamergate. This still happens today, and it always seems to happen when a member of a certain group disagrees with the social justice movement that claims to be fighting for them. For example, women who speak out against third wave feminism and the things that they find absurd with it are diagnosed with this mysterious illness called internalized misogyny. Hell, even women who describe themselves as feminists are diagnosed with this strange disease if they don't follow the specific brand of feminism that is politically correct to follow in our current day and age. Choice feminism is a form of feminism that basically says that I, as a woman, choose to empower myself through what I feel empowers me. So if I choose that I want to look good and eat right and work out, that is my empowerment. While if another woman says, I choose to leave my armpits hairy and never wear a bra, that is her empowerment. That is how choice feminism is seen. But according to a website known as Everyday Feminism, which you would think is the main ideas of current feminism on a website, according to them, choice feminism equals internalized misogyny for some reason, even though it is the whole point, it's in the name, is that it's the woman's choice. Everything that they do is the woman's choice. Why is this seen as hating women, or in this case, hating women inside you, or hating yourself for being a woman? I don't know. Or just think about how people react to a guy like Milo Yiannopoulos, a gay conservative Trump supporter.
If I could choose, I wouldn't be homosexual.
Really?
That doesn't make me self-loathing.
So if someone came out with a
doesn't
pill,
make me
if
self-loathing.
Pfizer
Came out with a pill to make me
fucking
straight.
does.
No, it doesn't.
You
No,
don't
it
think
doesn't.
it makes you self-loathing
Absolutely
to
not.
hate a part of what you
I
are?
don't hate a part of what I am. I love all of me, but if I could choose to be even better, then I would be.
He goes around telling people that being gay is kind of a choice, and he calls himself a dangerous faggot. His words, not mine. Now it seems to me that not fitting into the stereotypical mold that a social justice warrior has built for you and your particular identity group causes some form of cognitive dissonance within the person. Being a gay person who's not a liberal, or being a feminist who thinks that she should be able to wear makeup and do her hair nice or whatever, somehow means that something is wrong with you because you don't fit the idea in their head. Which to me is an even bigger form of bigotry than what they claim to be fighting. Claiming that somebody has something wrong with them because they are not what you think they should be is possibly the biggest form of bigotry that you could possibly find in the world. Not to mention that it takes away that person's freedom and agency, which loops back together oh so perfectly, doesn't it? Now the last thing I want to point out is the regressive solutions that are often proposed by social justice warriors. Now I personally feel like the majority of these social justice warriors are people within my generation, college-age students who have been passed down these tales of glory from their professors, who have marched in the civil rights era or fought during the second wave of feminism to allow women to have the freedom to do what they want socially. These kids hear these stories and are indoctrinated, and they say, yes, I want to do that. I want to have these kind of stories as well. And so they go out looking for a cause to fight, only to find that there aren't that many to fight at all. So rather than accepting this reality, taking the ideas and lessons that they learned and moving on with their lives, they decide to create a problem so that they can join up with a women's liberation or a civil rights movement. They infiltrate things like gaming and criticize scientists for the shirts that they wear in hopes that they can be at the forefront of the next big social justice movement so that they can be as their professors and tell glorious stories of how they fought against oppression and fought against the man. But there's an old proverb that everybody seems to know. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I think the reason for that is pretty simple. Trying to fix something that isn't broke is just going to break it. And I think that is what a lot of these ideas that these modern social justice warriors propose are doing. Modern feminists advocate for the infantilization of women, asking for protections and special privileges to be handed down so that women can remain safe, much to the dismay of second wave feminists like Camille Paglia and Christina Hoff Sommers, who fought for women to have the freedom and responsibility to do as they please like men have and do. Modern pro-black activists fight to have black-only dorms built on college campuses around the country, even though our civil rights movement, which was not that long ago, specifically fought against segregation. This is what is meant when we say regressive. By trying to find a solution to a problem that was already solved, they have essentially taken a step backwards in social progression that we've seen in the past 50 to 60 years in this country. And this backwards thinking has led to the cropping up of many skeptics who outright oppose these ideas if they find them to be misleading or deceitful. People like Teal Deer, Sargon of Akkad, The Amazing Atheist, Thunderfoot, Computing Forever, Baz FZZ, That Guy T, Undoomed, the list goes on and on and on and on and on. And the reason why all of these people have popped up is because there is a demand for it. The internet works much in the way that a free market economy works in a perfect system. If somebody wants something, somebody will come out and make it, and there will be plenty of competition. Even me making this video essentially kind of adds to that idea, because there are so many people who see these social justice warriors and they see what is wrong with them and they want to see people stand up against them. All these skeptics popping up is not only just a natural counter to these ideas, they are, in my opinion, inevitable. So in conclusion, this is why I feel like people hate social justice right now. Not necessarily because they disagree with the ideals of social justice, but because they dislike the people advocating for it and how they propose solutions to the problems that they are discussing. But maybe this is just a generational thing. Maybe when this generation grows up a little bit, we'll see a new golden age of social advocacy, where the social advocates are actually wise and organized and have an understanding of how people and societies work. And maybe they'll be able to actually work together with people who have differing opinions in order to reach a broader spectrum of people and to help more people overall. Because, as was once said by a wise man whose name I don't know, teamwork makes the dream work. But that's just what I think. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. I'd like to thank you guys for watching. Please hit that thumbs up button. Thumbs butt button. Yeah, I wish. Hit that thumbs up button. Share this video if you think that someone could use these words and actually learn something from it. And I will see you guys in the next video. And remember, nothing is black and white.